So anyway, tell us basically why you want this job.
Yeah, so thank you, Tracy, and thank you for inviting me to discuss all of that with you today and more. And I look forward to the opportunity. Um, I want this job because, simply put, I have three kids. I'm a public school father of three, and I want a better future for my kids, but not just my kids, it's kids across this city and really across this district. And I think things like the public safety situation here in the city, in our own neighborhood, in West Seattle, and across other neighborhoods across District 1, the public safety situation isn't where it should be. And so I want the biggest, best, and brightest future for my kids, and that starts right here. And I'm excited about the opportunity that we have to make progress on some of these issues like public safety and action on homelessness and building affordable housing to make sure that it's right for our kids.
So there was a kind of a sense in some of your, announcement that you thought that, you could be different.
Yeah.
So tell me more how you would be different, how actions you would take would be different from what's been going on for the past 8 years.
Yeah, so great question. So I think I have strong professional experiences, civic engagement, and community experiences. And I think what makes my candidacy arguably most compelling, and I know a lot of people from disadvantaged communities are looking to this for inspiration as well, is my lived experiences. My lived experiences, Tracy, as someone who's overcome the foster care system. My lived experiences as someone who was raised by a Nigerian immigrant in this country. My lived experiences as someone who was also raised that same immigrant in a single parent household whose parent was a frontline warehouse worker in Kent. And someone who has overcome a lot of adversity and been very fortunate and privileged in many cases to be where I'm at today professionally and personally, and who's also fought like heck to make sure that more people from disadvantaged backgrounds are able to achieve their true potential in life. So long story short, I was born in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And for the first 9 years of my life, I grew up in and out of the foster care system in Minnesota before my father was able to rescue me from those circumstances. And we moved around a ton, 13 different K through 12 schools growing up. All of them were Title I schools for kids like me at the time, free and reduced lunch, public housing, low-income apartments, that kind of thing. And me and my father, we eventually settled in South King County in Kent, where we lived in low-income apartments that were just a few short blocks from the Norma Lang Regional Justice Center in Kent, where some of my childhood friends would eventually be housed. And so I ended up graduating high school from Kent Meridian in 2001, and we know what happened then. That was the 9/11 terrorist attacks in this country. And I was inspired by those events, so I felt this patriotic sense of duty to help. And also, as like someone from my background, at the time I knew I wanted to go to school, didn't really have a means to pay for it, so I ended up using it as an opportunity to earn my education. I earned my college and law degrees under the GI Bill. And so my lived experiences, for all those reasons that I just mentioned, I think really helped give me that empathy to take action on a lot of these issues, but do it in a thoughtful manner that reflects all perspectives. And I'll tell you this, Tracy, to the extent I've been successful in life, the key is pretty straightforward. It's my ability to work collaboratively across differences, find common ground, and ultimately get stuff done. And not just stuff, big, fancy, big, bold ideas. We've done that. I've helped do a lot of that work at the King County Charter Review Commission level, for example. But not just stuff that works and works for all. And so I served for 10 years. I served this country for 10 years in uniform, and that was my distinct pleasure. And I surrendered the privilege of military service after 10 years to hopefully, ideally serve others in a different capacity as a civilian lawyer. And so me and my wife moved to San Francisco, went to law school at UC Hastings in SF. Moved back here, started practicing law at Perkins Coie in the firm's technology transactions and privacy practice group. And that whole time, this past decade, since we came back especially, I try to use whatever little legal, policy, and advocacy skills that I can to make sure that, again, more people from disadvantaged backgrounds are able to achieve their true potential in life. One way that I found that personally is helping to responsibly and sensibly reform our justice system locally here in King County. But I have certain views on public safety. I understand. I know what it's like. I know what it's like to experience police brutality. And that also means I know what it's the utter importance of making sure we have better police. Not no police, better police. And I will fight like heck to make sure we have better police in the city for all communities across the city. But I also know what it's like and can appreciate the value of good, honest police. My wife and I were a block away from the finish line of the 2013 Boston Marathon when the first bombs went off. And I'll never forget, in the chaos and confusion and the terror that ensued, when everyone was like, including myself, combat veteran, trying to figure out like how to run away from the danger, I'll never forget seeing hundreds of emergency responders, including police, putting their own health and safety on the line to protect us. So I think these lived experiences give me a certain level of empathy and credibility to thoughtfully address these complex challenges that we're facing. And like I said, I've never felt more energized about the opportunity that we have to do it together.
So that's a lot of background. That's what makes you. So you get elected, you step in, there you are, and you have all this with you.
Yeah.
But specific actions, can you give me any examples of something that perhaps if you had been in the chair earlier this year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever, you would have done differently?
Yeah, so the public safety situation in this city, in our district, is, like I said, unfortunately not where it should be. And I will tell you, I've seen the data, I've seen the graphs that track year-over-year trends, I've seen maps, but no one needs to see a color-coded map to see and experience that the crime situation, unfortunately, is gotten out of hand. And I've even experienced it myself in my own neighborhood in Delridge with shootings 2 days before Christmas. And so my plan is to address the public safety challenges that we're experiencing. I've had the honor and pleasure of serving on Mayor Harrell's Police Chief Search Committee, where we selected Adrian Diaz as the next Chief of Police. Helped do some of that work. But my plan to address the public safety situation is pretty simple and straightforward. I think we need to empower our first responders, including police, to effectively carry out their public safety mandate. We also need to set and enforce the highest standards of excellence and professionalism. And crucially, third thing, and all these are entirely consistent, by the way, the third thing we must do is swiftly hold them accountable if and when they fail to do their jobs in a just, equitable, and constitutional manner. And so I will do that. I also will invest in alternatives to armed responses. Not every crisis situation, for example, warrants someone showing up with a badge and a gun. Some do, but some don't. And to the extent some do, that engagement doesn't necessarily need to be led by the person with a badge and a gun. We need to have better responses, alternative responses from people like social workers and behavioral health specialists. So in the reform work, that is one example of reform. That is a continuous, ongoing process and journey that I will continue to lead. I've led it before in some of my civic work that I've had the opportunity of doing. And I look forward to doing more.
everybody, the people on the council have been talking about similar things for the past couple of years, though, but in terms of specific action, as one council member, and yes, you've, talked about your experience and your, knack for working collaboratively, but what do you think that you might be able to specifically do? Is there a particular piece of legislation, a particular course of action that you plan to propose early on?
Yeah, so I want to hire, train, develop, and grow the right number and right kind of officers. And by right kind, that means good, honest, community-oriented police officers. Ideally, as many as especially as we think about recruitment, as many new officers from this community, from Seattle, as possible. We need to recruit in more areas like High Point. And as many people from the community who understand the needs of the local community as possible. So I will do that. Again, we need to get this. This has been a great idea for a long time, but we actually need to get it off the ground. And one that I've supported is non-armed responses. So we need to invest and actually take action on that. It's been bandied around. It's still in the incubation stages, if you will. We need to put it into action. So I intend to do all of those.
So do you think that there's a reason that it hasn't happened yet, though it's been talked about for the past few years?
So that's a great question for folks to ask of folks currently in positions of power, and that have a hand in that. I intend to take action and make progress on that and other issues, rather than play politics. And I think, unfortunately, we've seen in certain discussions here, that's why I want to and I aspire to do better. Take action and make progress, real progress, in working towards solutions that work and work for all on some of these complex issues, whether we're talking public safety or homelessness or lack of affordable housing. So I intend to make progress rather than playing politics with it.
So before we leave the public safety topic, I just have one other question. You mentioned the right number and the right kind of officers. Yeah. And what you've seen of what at least is cleared for hiring now, do you think that we're pursuing the right number, or that we have enough now, or that we need more than those openings for?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I will say this. I don't purport to have the singular answer with respect to whatever that right number is, or frankly, any of these issues. But my approach and my formula for success is pretty simple. Again, working across differences towards a common goal and achieving results. The right number, I think the more salient question in my mind than the right number is, are we meeting response times? Are we meeting response times? And I think the answer to that today is no. I know it's not. My own neighbors have let me know that they've called the police in certain situations and been told that, are you hurt? Are you injured? Sorry, no one's here this is what happens when you defund the police. We have rapes that have gone uninvestigated recently in the city. Are we meeting response times? No. But the answer, so I think that's the more salient question. I am committed, and I remain committed to working collaboratively with the residents of this district, our police leaders, the mayor's administration, my fellow council members, and to figure out whatever that right number is. But bottom line, we need to meet those response times, needs, and demands, reasonable expectations of people, to everyone, because everyone deserves to live in a safe neighborhood, free of crime, and also free of threat of unequal justice. So I have experience doing exactly that, and I want to help here as well, given the opportunity.
So on the other hot topic, well, not that there's only one other hot topic, but you pretty much mentioned three on homelessness.
Yeah.
What's your platform on that for starters?
Yeah, we need to take action on homelessness. The homelessness crisis declared in the city 8 years plus years ago has devolved into a homelessness catastrophe. And shame on us for allowing it to get this bad. And I will tell you, as someone who has overcome the foster care system, I know what it's like to be uprooted and displaced and swept away. I understand that. But I think the first element of our homelessness strategy is building a ton of affordable housing. We'll talk about how in just a moment. So we need that is the number one factor that contributes to homelessness as based on the research that I've seen. We're going to build a ton of affordable housing. But we also need to have a better, tighter, interagency, coordinated response that focuses on city cleanup and encampment removal, that also connects people with shelter space and services, whether that's behavioral health services, drug treatment services, etc. We need to prioritize that. And then, like I said, we can talk more about the permitting process and things like that. We need to build affordable housing. That's the solution, removing some of the red tape in the permitting process. Because the current clip and the complexity in that, there's definitely a strong opportunity to do better. So, and I would also explore things like designated safe lots for people to explore. The bottom line is we need a better, more coordinated effort that focuses on cleanup and camp removal. And the final thing I'll say on this topic is the importance of mental health and behavioral health care facilities and treatment services. We need to end the whack-a-mole situation where we close down one encampment and 10 more pop up in other neighborhoods and communities. I've seen it right here in this own, like the health club is a few short blocks from where we're sitting today. And when they closed that last summer, a number of other encampments popped up around us. And so we need to end that. And part of that is, and I'm hearing from homelessness rights advocates, I'm hearing from small business owners, I'm hearing from people who work directly in this space that we don't have sufficient mental health treatment services and facilities. And so we need to invest in that. That's part of this there is no singular action that's going to help get us there and help us make progress on this issue of homelessness. But we do all of those are centrally important. And I intend to make progress on that.
Do you think that we have enough revenue in it that's being invested properly, or that we need to raise more money or divert more money from someplace else for some of the things we talked about? Yeah,
so I think for me the starting place is we need to make sure that we are being excellent stewards of the people's dollars, the tax dollars that are invested, and make sure whatever those tax dollars are, make sure they're wisely invested. That is the starting place. And part of that work is developing tighter rigor and accountability for things like outcomes, setting ambitious goals, but closely tracking and working together with the agencies and people doing the work on the ground to achieve these outcomes. But we need to have better accountability for outcomes instead of just writing blank checks. So I think that's a starting point. The next thing I will say is that if we take the issue of homelessness, for example, this is a highly complex, nuanced problem. And a lot of it we see visibly in the city of Seattle. By the way, I don't want to just end visible homelessness. I want to end homelessness. That's my goal. That's my starting place. But Seattle is experiencing, like, proportionally makes sense, but it's not just limited to our community. Homelessness is not a Seattle only problem. It's a county problem. It's a broader regional problem across the Puget Sound region. It's a state problem, and it's a federal problem. Why should we, Seattle, the residents of District 1, why should we be singularly responsible for bearing the brunt of this complex problem that cuts across all levels of government? We need to work more collaboratively and partner more closely with governments at all levels. We shouldn't just bear the burden and the financial burden of solving this crisis and then funding it. Again, there's opportunities to look around the folks around us, other governments around us, to help with that.
We have the new Regional Homelessness Authority. Have you looked at what they're doing at all?
Yeah, as I understand it, the Regional Homelessness Authority came up with this grand, ambitious plan to end homelessness within a specified period, and I think a real question remains about how that's going to specifically be funded and who is on the hook for what. And as I understand commentary from leaders across the county and the state, like, I think they share that same concern as well. And so I think it's a great plan, a great framework to build from, to iterate on, and to improve, and then, importantly, figure out the funding and do it with across governments, and partner closely with others. It's not just a Seattle-only input and construct and set of plans and principles we're going to implement. We're one part of that broader problem, an issue, an opportunity.
In your multifaceted professional experience, you've mentioned working as a lawyer and your time in the service and whatnot. Have you dealt with budgets before?
So yes, in the military, I enlisted. I originally enlisted, and I was able to, fortunately, kind of quickly work my way up the military rank structure, and eventually earned what's called a deserving airman commission. So I was both enlisted and an officer, and as an officer, yes, I've oversaw budgets. Also, in my experience as a lawyer, I've helped and advised businesses of all sizes, from startup to micro entrepreneurs, even before startups, micro entrepreneurs who are taking a bet and taking a shot on some idea to like just solely focus on earning a better living for them and their family, their immediate families, let alone build generational wealth or like equity or things like that. It's just making a better living, whether it's, I've helped people start up their own yoga studios and janitorial, like, cleaning services, like, companies. So I've helped businesses of all sizes succeed, and then startups to Fortune 500 companies, and been involved in the success of those organizations, and so yes, done that work.
I ask because a lot of people have been, claiming that if there were more people on the city council who had some sort of either business acumen or at least something, related to budgeting, maybe when they look at those, multi-hundreds of millions of dollars, they'd be a little more critical, a little more strategic.
Yeah.
So it's always an interesting question.
I have been honored to serve as a trusted advisor the last decade, and before that I was served for 10 years in the Air Force, in Air Force Reserves, and over the last decade as a trusted legal advisor to the business, to various businesses of all sizes. I've learned the importance of making sure investments, like and this is sort of what I talked about a little bit earlier, is like setting ambitious goals, tracking and monitoring progress, ensuring accountability for outcomes. There's a million, there's a lot of highly qualified people that have pure budget experience. Not as many who have experience in business and doing the things that I mentioned. But regardless, I hope that your audience, understands and appreciates the multi-layers and the multi-dimensions of my experience, cutting across multiple segments and multiple industries, and understands the value of that. And I would love to earn their support.
So on the before we wrap up our initial conversation here, on the matter of just, District 1 issues, you also have some language in your announcement about, wanting to help D1 with what matters here. Obviously, these big issues matter here, they matter everywhere.
Yes.
But are there, specifically, what do you think, our area is really facing that you would, be sure to advocate for?
Yes, great question. And that's like my 3-part plan and strategy is pretty simple and straightforward. I want to prioritize public safety, take action on homelessness, and building a ton of affordable housing. But above all that, and actually related as well, is I think there's a ripe opportunity now more than ever to simplify a little bit and kind of remember the basics of what a well-intended local government is intended to do. And that's things like, so as part of that, going back to the basics. Focusing on things like repairing roads, building and maintaining bridges, empowering police to carry out their public safety mandate, and holding them accountable, like I said, when if they mess up. Keeping our parks, including this one here in Delridge, keeping our parks clean, open, accessible, well-maintained, welcoming for all. And we'll be big, bold, and transformative in all of those areas. But I think we need to focus on some things that matter the most, and some things that really make a difference in everyday people's everyday lives, and help really improve their lived experiences. When they have comfort that they're going to have great response times from the police, when they have comfort that they can go to take their kids, take their family, have a play date at a park, and have it be open and safe and accessible and properly maintained, and they have comfort that a pothole will be promptly repaired. So I want to help with that, and I want to focus most of my effort on that.
I know we'll talk again, but anything else that you want to make sure that people know this time around that we didn't ask about?
Now, I feel like this was pretty comprehensive, but I want to thank you, Tracy, for the opportunity to chat. We'll absolutely have more, I hope, and I'm looking forward to continuing this conversation and on this journey to earn. I would love the opportunity to serve the people. And I messed up, because that's the one thing. It's all over my campaign stuff, and every other interview I feel like I've led with that, and I don't think I've made that clear. I am here to serve the people of District 1. I am here to serve the residents, and all that work. I told you my plan. I am here to serve the people first. It's not about me. Not about me. I have a passion for service. If it's, check my resume. It's quick, talk to people I've worked with and for in communities. I have a passion for service, and I would love the opportunity to wake up every day and serve the people of this district. That's it. It's not about me. I want to center their voices and their values and their perspectives, and I got my own ideas and things and preferences, but it's not about me. It's about them. So I want to serve. I've served this nation in uniform before, and I would love the opportunity to serve our community here in District 1 in West Seattle. in a Jordan hoodie and cool geeky glasses, I guess, as well. So
Awesome, thank you.
thank you.